Hello. I've been out for a couple of days. I have been busily prepping for my CP boards, which is actually tomorrow. It's like 9 hours. I already finished my AP boards last week, so wish me luck. On another note, we're going to talk about asbestos and how it is associated and can cause mesothelioma. I didn't know this before, but asbestos is not man-made. It's a naturally occurring material that people since the Stone Age have been using it to strengthen ceramic pots. We've been using it in the last century for thermal and electrical insulation. And so when 9/11 happened, older buildings got damaged and there was release of asbestos fibers, as you can see here. Now, why does asbestos exposure lead to mesothelioma? Well, there's the general concept of, if cells keep on getting irritated and they have to replicate, you're increasing your chance of your cells making a DNA error and ultimately leading to oncogenes or inactivation of tumor suppressor genes. Basically, tumor suppressor genes are the brakes for a car as it's speeding, but now the brakes don't work no matter how hard you press it. And that's due to mutations developed over time. And oncogenes is just the accelerator. Proto-oncogene means it's a normal gene that allows for cell division. When it gets mutated, where it's always on, when it's always pressing the gas pedal, that's when it's an oncogene. And now, with that out of the way, this here is in the pleura, and these are called ferruginous bodies. These are inorganic fibers, and in the case with someone with asbestos exposure, these are asbestos fibers that are coated with iron particles from our body. And why is this not good? Because our cells get irritated by these ferruginous bodies, and they keep on getting irritated, and this can lead to DNA changes and mutations, like I had mentioned before, oncogenes and inactivation of tumor suppressor genes. And so this is diffuse pleural mesothelioma. So we associate mesothelioma with the lungs, but technically any mesothelial lined surface, including the tunica vaginalis of your testes, of a male's testes, can lead to mesothelioma. So it's any of the mesothelial cells that lines an organ. If it undergoes enough mutations, it can become cancerous and become mesothelioma. It's just more commonly associated with lung because that's where the asbestos fibers irritate the mesothelial cells to the point where it undergoes mutations over time, many decades. So even this illustrates the point where, like, the heart was also the pericardium is the lining over the heart, and on that lining are mesothelial cells, and you can get mesothelioma as well. So when someone has mesothelioma, they oftentimes get a pleural effusion with fluid in the pleural space. And that can be seen on X-ray, it could be seen on CT, and oftentimes there will be a needle biopsy done where we'll get the fluid. And mesothelial cells can look scary, especially reactive ones, but you shouldn't have more than 12 mesothelial cells. Here we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. We have more than 25, maybe even 30 cells clumped together. And then you might say, but how do you know it's mesothelioma? Why not it being like breast cancer that has metastasized to the pleura because the breast is nearby the pleura? And that's a great question. Well, in that case, carcinoma cells, they tend to be smooth. They tend to have smooth borders. Here, you see these borders are kind of bumpy. Kind of what we call like morular, like a berry, like a blackberry, is just kind of protrudes out. So that's a hint that these are mesothelial cells, and because it's so many of them, that's a hint that these mesothelial cells have gone wild. They have become mesothelioma. And so once we can confirm that it's mesothelioma, you can always have like a resection, and thank you to Pathpresenter for this pleural mesothelioma case. Here we see very cellular tumor that is scattered diffusely throughout the pleura. And I know it's the pleura because they told me it's the pleura. But you know those cells we saw on cytology just a moment ago? So these are these cells in H&E, and you can see there's mitotic activity, meaning it's actively dividing. And these cells are much larger than your like surrounding stromal cells. Here, let me make a point. Let's find a good cell. So like this cell right here, compared to this cell. Like you can see, you can put like at least 4 of those cells here. So these cells, the machinery has, the genome has gone awry, right? And they're not respecting each other's spaces. There's mitotic activities. And if you're not used to seeing desmoplasia, it might be hard to see, but the stroma has like a little grayish tinge to it, and that's often seen when tumor invades into the surrounding tissue. You know, it's an invader, and you're going to have a stromal response to it, this kind of gray tinge. You get sort of like, in addition, we looked at the cellular details, let's look at the architecture. So it's kind of like papillary. This looks like a fibrovascular core just coming at us or away from us, and kind of cut horizontally. Some more of these cells. And so that is, it's very hard to, there's a good example of desmoplasia right here, this grayish tinge. And I think there's a little bit of tumor necrosis as well, where the tumor has outgrown its blood supply, and so it dies off furthest away from the blood supply. So mesothelioma is hard to diagnose just on H&E. I'll just let you know. You want to get a BAP1 stain, because loss of BAP1 is pretty specific for mesothelioma. And you also want to get a CDKN2A assessed for mutations, and it should be lost in mesothelioma. So you want those ancillary studies to really confirm that this is indeed mesothelioma. In addition to those, regular immunohistochemistry antigens that mesothelial cells in general express is calretinin CK56, WT1, D240, and this should stain for the mesothelioma because it's mesothelial in origin. Whereas if it were like a breast cancer, it wouldn't stain MOC31, it wouldn't stain calretinin CK56. So that was in a nutshell mesothelioma. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time. Bye.